Hello, today we are going to talk about k3d, which is an application that allows you to run a Kubernetes cluster in your computer with just one command. It is a wrapper around another application called k3s, which is a very lightweight Kubernetes cluster. With k3d, you basically harness the power of Docker, and from there you can create a multi-node cluster running in your machine. So first of all, we need Docker installed, and we need to know how to use it. If you don't know, you can check my video about how to use Docker. Also, you need some familiarity with the command line interface. If you don't, I have another video for that you can also move from 0 to hero with the command line. Check it out in the description of this video. Also, you need some basic knowledge of Kubernetes to follow this video. So let's get into it. We're going to install now some applications for the command line, and for that I'm going to use Homebrew, which is a package manager very popular on macOS, and it is also available for Linux. For simplicity in this video I'm going to use that, but if you want to install on Linux without using Homebrew, I have a description of that on the post related to this video on my blog. The link is in the description below. This is a Homebrew website which shows how to install it on Mac and Linux. It's very easy to do. Just follow the instructions here and you should be good to go. So let's get to it. We need to install k3d, of course, kubectl to manage Kubernetes, and k9s. K9s is not really necessary here to do this, but I really recommend to install this application as well and use it because it will make your life way easier managing Kubernetes with it. Once that is installed, we need to create the registry. The registry basically helps us to get all those Docker images upload inside k3d, so when we deploy our cluster, there is a place for it to download those images. You can also make them download online, but in this case it's easier to just recreate something more similar to an environment. You can have control on that registry to put the tags that you want and the images that you want, especially if you want to run something, for example, disconnected from the internet. The reason I'm using port 5001 is because 5000 was already taken in macOS, but you can actually use any port you want. Once this is installed, we can check that in Docker, we already have here a container running the registry. k3d managed all that behind the scenes for us. Next, we proceed to create the cluster. In here, the command is very easy. Cluster create, then my cluster is the name of the cluster we want to use. Here is a load balancer because we want to access a simple hello world application inside our cluster from our browser. So we need to create a load balancer here. And then the registry to use is the one that we just created before. Once that is installed, we can check on Docker, and we can see here that we have here the containers running all the nodes and everything we need for the cluster. We can use k3d cluster list, and it's going to show us the cluster that we have here, one agent, and it's one cluster of one running. If we do k3d registry list, it's going to give us the registry that we just created as well. Now we are basically good to go. Let's try also the kubectl command, config get contexts, and it's showing that now we have a context created for us with that cluster. So now we can manage this Kubernetes cluster directly with kubectl. Now that we have our cluster ready, we need to run something on it. And for that, I have a very simple image with just a hello world message when you go that in with a browser. You can basically use any Docker image you want. But for that, if you want to save some time, you can download and use the image I already have. We need to pull the image using Docker. We can check now that the image is there. And here we are. This is our image. The next thing we want to do is to tag this image. And the reason we want to do that is because we already created our registry. So we want to get this image uploaded to that registry. And for that, we need to tag the image. We need to change the tag of that image. The only thing we need to do now is push it. And this is pushing it into our registry. Next, if we want to see if our image was really uploaded to the registry, we can use the registry API with a curl command. And here we can see that repositories and hello world, the image is there, repository is there. We can also use the curl command to see the tags that image has. Here we have the basic latest, which is the one we have before when we tag it. Finally, what we need to do is to apply the manifests that we have for the cluster to actually create a deployment of this application. For that, I have a repository, the link is below in the description of this video, in GitHub, where you can just download these simple manifests. But obviously, if you already know Kubernetes, you know what to do here. You can just create them any manifests you want. So I'm going to go inside this repository, and here we have K8S, which is the folder with the manifests. If we open one of them, we can see it's a very simple manifest for a deployment. It's creating 2 replicas, and this is the image that it's going to use, which matches the registry that we set up. Something important to notice here is that we are using the name of the registry. We are not using the local host, otherwise it's not going to be able to reach it. For the ingress, it's also very straightforward, simple one, as well for the service. You can get as complex as you want here. Before we apply this, I would like to show you the use of K9S. It's a very cool app that is going to make your life way easier managing Kubernetes. We just run the command K9S, and here we have the namespaces, and the default one is where we are gonna basically make our deployment. At the moment, I have no pods in there, so let's go here and apply the deployment. Boom, you see there, it's immediately showing you what's going on with the pods. At the bottom, we can see here is running. These 2 are running now. Now we need to apply the rest of the configuration. And now that we are good, we can see here, K9S, that we have our service and our ingress. And here are the pods. They're all healthy and running. So let's test this. I have this cluster running in another computer. That's why I call it sandbox. But if you do it in your own machine, it should be localhost. And here we have it. This is actually running on our cluster, which is running on that computer. And we can check here in the logs in the pod, we can see that we access that website. Finally, if we want to get rid of the cluster, it's very easy. Here we list the cluster. We can stop it and just pass the name of the cluster. You can see here that our containers stopped working. If we do another cluster list, we see here that we have 0 of 1 servers running and 0 of 1 agents. So the cluster is now done. You can start it again with the start command. But now let's delete it. K3d cluster delete my cluster. And it's just gone. And we can create as many clusters as we want. We have also the registry left. We can also delete it the same way. And that's it. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial on how to use K3d. It's a very powerful tool. I use it all the time. You can replicate production environments basically on your local machine. You can even use it for something more serious than just testing. And the good thing about it is that it allows to use a multi-node cluster and simulate a lot of things with Kubernetes locally in your machine. You can even have your own Kubernetes cluster running on a Raspberry Pi, for example, or a server at home, or even providing a small service. Let me know in the comments if you used K3d before and what is your experience with it. I would really like to know. Thank you for watching.